The reason why I personally don't do flat press anymore is because of the risk. It is slightly more of a riskier movement because of the position at which you're pressing.
I couldn't agree with this anymore. The flat barbell bench press isn't in my top 5 chest exercises either. There are way better exercises out there which will help isolate the chest, and these exercises will work a lot better with hypertrophy training. Don't get me wrong, the barbell bench press is a great exercise, especially if your main goal in the gym is to get stronger. And obviously with that strength may come some size, but in my opinion it's a higher risk than reward.
You are more restricted with the range of motion, and a lot of issues with rotator cuffs, the shoulder joint, tend to arise from pressing excessive weight with improper form. Now, if you've nailed your form, then you probably won't be suffering from any of these issues, but most people really haven't nailed their form when it comes to doing barbell bench press.
With the barbell bench press, it is so easy to get carried away. I've been on the receiving end of that a couple times, and luckily I have never been injured. So when you're loading up the weight on each side, the risk increases drastically, and that makes the risk way greater than the reward.
What I would do now, and what I have been doing for the past 5 years or so, is I've replaced this exercise with the incline barbell bench press. Yes, you could argue you're maybe engaging fewer pec fibers, or certainly around the lower to mid-range, but the range of motion is greater. It's more of a joint-friendly movement when you're pressing at an incline. So for me, that is an exercise which I've been doing more of.
What Mike is saying here, if you increase that bench in between 45 and 60 degrees and make it an incline barbell bench press, there are pros and cons. One con being it only hits one of the 3 heads in the pec, that being the upper section. So your middle and lower pec lose engagement by increasing your bench by 45 to 60 degrees. But this movement will target the upper chest and a little bit of the front delt. And the pros being that it's a way joint friendly compared to the barbell flat bench press, and it reduces your risk of injury. And it increases the range of motion, which allows you to get a deeper stretch. That brings that risk level down a little bit.
Generally, I want to focus more on my upper chest, and of course I want to be lifting long into the future with no shoulder issues. So I would replace it with incline barbell press.
And of course, longevity is key, but instead of going for the incline barbell press, I'm going for the incline dumbbell press. As you may know by now, this is my favorite exercise to do in the gym. So that you've got 2 separate loads in each hand, this eliminates a barbell going across your body. And with the barbell, you could only really go as low as your chest allows you to, as the barbell hits your chest. So you're missing out on a few valuable inches.
That's what she said.
Whereas if you're using dumbbells, you could go beneath the chest and allows you to get a slightly deeper stretch.
The next one I have suggested is the incline dumbbell press. Now, I would probably still agree with this, not necessarily solely the incline press, but any kind of dumbbell press.
So I agree with Mike. Although I'm specifically choosing the incline dumbbell chest press, he recommends using the dumbbells for any kind of chest press except the decline dumbbell chest press, because there's a way higher risk getting into this position, more or less upside down, carrying a heavy load.
From flat all the way up to about 45 degrees, I think this is an essential exercise for you to have in your list, just because it's an exercise you can do anywhere. You not only work the muscle fibers, but also stabilizing muscles as well. And you can vary up the positioning of the incline, so you can target a lot of the fibers from the upper to the mid or even lower range. So we're going to keep that in the top 5.
And it makes total sense why he's not choosing a specific angle to perform this motion, because they both hit different parts of your chest. I'm just specifically choosing the incline version for pure preference. My second exercise is a weighted chest dip. This targets more of your pec major and minor, which is the middle and lower parts of your pecs. I just love this exercise, especially if you have yourself a weighted belt. I love it because you can really go as deep as possible and get a proper stretch in your lower pecs. It's easy to progressive overload both with and without weight, so that'll be my number 2. If you're enjoying this video so far, give it a thumbs up and let me know below your number 1 essential chest day exercise.
The next exercise which I have on the list is the incline cable fly. Now, I'd 100% keep a cable fly variation in this top 5 list, but I probably wouldn't set myself up like that anymore. I haven't done that one for a very long time. I would just use a seated upright bench and position myself a little bit further away from the cable station itself. And I'd also vary between using the cable station where the cables are close together and the one where the cables are far apart, just so you can alternate the resistance at different points in the strength curve.
He's chosen the seated upright cable fly for his second exercise. This is a great exercise. One, because there's constant tension throughout the whole movement because you're using the cables. Two, that Mike suggested bringing the seat in front of the cables a little while performing this movement. At the bottom of the motion, it allows you to get that deep stretch. And three, at the top of the movement, it's easy to squeeze and feel it in the peak contraction. So this is a great exercise, but I'm gonna be like Mike was for the dumbbells, but on the cables. I'm a big fan of the cables in this moment of time, and I love my isolation movements, so I couldn't choose one variation specifically. I love the seated cable fly, I love the seated incline cable fly, and I also really like the decline cable fly. Decline meaning the cable's going from top to bottom. And I do agree with Mike while doing these movements seated, just because if you're doing a standard variation, you would have to worry about your balance, and there's more core activation there. Whereas if you're seated, it completely eliminates this.
I always still recommend doing these over dumbbell flies, because when you're doing a dumbbell fly, you get a lot of resistance at the start of the movement when the muscle's in the stretch position, but when you are bringing the dumbbells up on top of your torso, there's almost no resistance, so the shortened position of the pec really isn't being trained at all.
I'm also not a fan of dumbbell flies. This is another exercise where the risk outweighs the reward.
I would suggest replacing it with a machine. In fact, I'm surprised that I didn't even include any kind of machine pressing in this video.
The great thing about machines is so beginner friendly because it's a fixed path. All you've really got to do is focus on controlling the movement. You don't have to worry about your balance during this exercise. It's also very easy to take these muscles to beyond failure using a machine, especially if it's a plated machine. You just take off one plate at a time and just carry on pushing.
And the advantage of pressing machines is the risk of injury when picking the weights up in the first place is reduced. And second of all, if you're training by yourself, you can really go to failure and not have to worry about the weights falling on your face. And you can even take advantage of doing these rest pause sets, which are really good to do.
Yeah, agreed. You could really focus on the eccentric reps, training to failure, and you could also do like partial reps, drop sets on this. So machines are great. And it's way less taxing on your muscles and shoulders. How many times have you tried to get a dumbbell up but you completely fail on your first rep? I know I have. So using a machine completely prevents this.
Which machine you would go for is completely dependent upon what section of your pecs you want to try and hit. But I would suggest some form of decline focused press machine to make the most of going really heavy pressing at that angle.
So I've been to many gyms, and unfortunately the gyms I have gone to haven't really had a plate loaded machine for each section of their chest. So I haven't been able to try plate loaded machines on different angles, but I do really like the decline version considering I've chosen the incline dumbbell chest press as my first exercise.
The final one which I have gone for is pec deck, or any kind of pec fly machine if there's any good ones, but can't go wrong with a solid pec deck machine.
Again, I couldn't agree with this anymore. I think the pec deck is a staple and an essential on chest day. I go through different phases with the pec fly machine. Sometimes I use it at the beginning of my workout to really pre-exhaust my chest before going into my big compound movements. And other times I do this at the end of my workout to take my chest to beyond failure. So that is a pin machine with a stack of weights. It's easy to do drop sets and start on a really heavy load and keep dropping the weight to really kill your chest at the end of the workout. And if you retract your scapula while performing this movement, you get a nice deep stretch at the bottom of the movement. So I couldn't recommend this anymore. So now both mine and Mike's exercises are on the screen. He is someone I really look up to and really idolize, so there will be some similarities. So let me know below whose list you prefer, my list or Mike's list, and also let me know your 5 essential chest exercises. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe, and watch this next video.